Hello, Rodger Bingham here. Some of you may remember me from Survivor 2, the Australian Outback, and I'm back down here on my farm today in Crittenden, Kentucky. And if anybody wants to write to me, my address is P.O. Box 461, Crittenden, Kentucky 41030. And you know, I've been doing a series on fire making skills. The first one I did was on using a magnesium stick, which is, you know, relatively simple to do. The second one that I did was using a bow and drill, which is a little bit more complicated. And all of the wood that I got for that demonstration, I got right here off of my farm in Crittenden. Now today I'm going to show you another way to make a fire. And you know, being able to survive is all about using what you have at your disposal. What your environment provides you, what you happen to have with you, what Mother Nature happens to provide you with. You know, I hear a lot of scenarios where there's people that runs off the road, or perhaps are four-wheeling or way back in the field, and their vehicle breaks down, runs out of gas, and they're stranded there sometimes for several weeks. And so, you know, sometimes they're in a very cold environment, so they need to build a fire. So, you know, if they're not very versed on using a bow and drill or a hand drill, or they don't have a magnesium stick with you, you know, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to show you today. All you need to build a fire with is your vehicle. Now that may sound a little strange, but let me show you what I'm going to be using today. This is my 46 Jeep, and everything that you need to build a fire with is on this vehicle. And it would be the same with you if you were on a four-wheeler, or if you were on a Jeep, or if you was in just a regular vehicle and happened to make a wrong turn and end up way back off the road. So let's go up here and see what we've got. Raise the hood up on it. And what do we got down in there? Well, of course we got the motor naturally, and right over here, there's what we need, the power source, the battery. We're going to generate enough heat off of that battery to build a fire. Now you may say, well, how are you going to transfer the energy from that battery to some dry tinder? Well, you're going to need some wires to do that with. Now you don't want to use the wires up here. It's on your distributor. Any of these wires up here, it's on your motor. Because you know, if you were able to get it started later on, and then if you pulled all these wires off, you know, you could be hurt. Now if you were in an extreme situation and couldn't find any other wires, then yes, I would use those. But looking over this Jeep, for example, here's wires down in here that I found. It runs all along here. Here's a big heavy wire here. Went back here on the back end of the Jeep. And I even looked up in here. Lo and behold, there's some wires up in there. So, you know, there's a lot of different places that you can come up with these wires. Now, if you're in a newer vehicle, chances are you're probably going to have to maybe get in your trunk, pull out some of your taillight wires on the back of your vehicle. But whatever you need to do to be able to stay warm and to be able to stay alive. Okay, I'm going to shut the camera off for just a minute here and get it set up a little differently, where I can show you how to start a fire using this battery. Okay, let's see if we're ready to go here today. I was able to get, like I said, a couple pieces of wire off of the vehicle. Both of them look just exactly like this. Now you want to take your knife. If you don't have a knife, you can use a rock, and you want to scrape that insulation off of those. And the reason you want to do that, that insulation is rubber and it burns. So these wires are going to get very hot. So we're going to strip that insulation off of those. You just keep doing it. You strip it all the way down, all that insulation off your wires. And you'll end up with a couple wires that's just a copper, what's on the inside of them. Now I will say this, these wires get very, very hot. It's impossible to hold these in your hands once we make contact to this battery. If you got some gloves, you can use them. If you don't have gloves, you can get you a couple little sticks. That's what I did. Got a couple little sticks laying around here on the ground. I took my knife and was able to take that point of that knife and put just a little hole right up there in both where it goes all the way through. Now I'm going to stick my wire through there, sort of loop it over. Now I've got a way of holding that wire. Tell you what, I'm going to push it on down a little bit further. I think that would probably be the best bet, because we got to be able to touch those wires together in a minute. So let's do the other wire the same way. Put it right up through the little hole that I made. And this is going to give us something to hold on to, because like I said, these wires get very, very hot. So now lay those over out of the way for a second. I want to show you something else. Before we do that, we want to make sure we got some dry tinder. I've picked up some old dry grass here around on the farm, dead grass, and I've worked it into something kind of like a bird nest. And you want to work those fibers up down in there real good, just making them just as fine as you can possibly get them. Keep working them together until you got as many little fine fibers as you can possibly get. Now another thing you can do to help the situation, if you're with happen to be have a lady with you that she happens to have some sanitary napkins, those make excellent tinder. I'm back here by myself. I've got an old hanky, so I'm going to do what I can to make this as easy as possible. So I'm going to take a piece of that hanky and I'm going to tear off a little piece of it. Now, you've got to be careful here. You got gasoline engine, you got oil around. Okay, we've got oil, so what can we do to make this oil? Is a petroleum product. So I'm going to take my dipstick out of the vehicle and I'm going to put a little bit of oil on this rag. Dip it down in there again, put some more oil on it. Put the dipstick back in the Jeep. Push that down into my tinder good. Now you do need to be as careful as you can with anytime you're using a battery like this. If you got safety goggles, use them. Chances are you probably wouldn't have, but I do happen to have a pair of glasses. So I'm going to put them on just as a safety precaution. I'm going to take one end of my wire and I'm going to stick it down in one terminal. Just so happens this is got the red line going to it, so that's your positive terminal. I'm going to take the other wire, stick it down in the other terminal. That's the negative. And if you happen to have a wrench, you can loosen those up. I don't have, but usually all you have to do is stick them down next to those terminals. Now we're going to bring this down and make these two wires make contact, and that should start generating some heat here. Look at there. Boom. Already got fire going. See how easy that was? That's simple as can be. I'm going to put it out. It's very, very dry here on my farm, so I certainly don't want to have a major forest fire. But you see how simple that was? Everything that I used, I got right off of this vehicle. And you could do the same thing. That's how easy it was to get a fire going. Okay, there you have it. You see how simple that was? It literally did not take me 45 seconds to get a fire going once I had all of my supplies gathered up. And everything that I used came right out of this woods or came right off of this vehicle. And that's, anybody can do that. It don't matter if you're on a four-wheeler, an ATV, If you're in an old 46 Willys like I happen to be in, or if you're in a newer car, you just got to hunt around till you find those wires. And you know, so what if it messes up your taillights? You got to do whatever you have to do to survive. And you know, one thing that I never hear people mention ever when I'm talking about being able to survive in different situations, you have to be in good physical condition. I don't care who you are, you've got to be in good physical condition. There you have it, 40 push-ups. Could have done 50, didn't feel like it today. Thanks for watching. Hope this may help you sometime if you ever had to survive.